Important elements that you shall be added to your story as you're describing the story of your brand to your audience. Now, today I'll go through these three important elements that if you don't have, your story wouldn't be as motivating as if you have them. Now, let's go through the first one. When you tell your story to your audience, don't be shy away from the truth, including if there are any sad things that happen to yourself as you walk the journey of creating this brand. Now, for myself, as I mentioned previously, I grew up in China in a poor family. It was the home that I had back then. It was literally just like 200 square feet. It was very, very small. And I remember growing up every single day hoping to have my own bedroom, but I never really got a chance. My parents were really poor to begin with, and both of them, they didn't have any education. My dad, he graduated only from primary school back in China, and my mom pretty much the same. None of them had any university degrees, and when they raised me, they always had a dream to get everything the best for myself, to the best of their abilities. But unfortunately, we were in a very poor situation. So I still remember there were days that that we didn't even have electricity at our home, and sometimes we even have to use candles. And because of that, I couldn't even study at home. I had to go to some public facilities like a library just so that I could use the lights and just to see. And it was a very bad situation back then. And my mom worked as a dealer in a casino, and I remember every single night she was told to work at night, and sometimes only night shifts for 2 or 3 months straight without any rest. The labor laws back in China was very, very harsh. They were basically not even fair. The labor laws were not fair, and because of that, I grew up naturally really hating an environment where basically the employers all take over, and lots of them, they were not willing to offer like a good work environment for the employees. So that was why when I grew up, I really wanted to initiate changes, that if I had a business, I would want to provide a good working, comfortable environment to anyone who worked for me. I worked really, really hard just to save up enough money to get me to go to Canada, a country that they believe will help not just to further my education, but also will give me a chance to live a new life, not like themselves, that they had to suffer so much and to keep living in a place with no hope. And I had the chance to go to Canada, and I worked really, really hard. I was the one who studied 24 hours a day. If I put myself at a really high standard, that if I didn't score 100%, I would feel really sad. And of course, as I grew up, I learned that life is a lot more than just studying textbooks. And I graduated from the university in Canada. I worked 11 years as engineers. Even though there were many times I made good salary, but because of my poor upbringing, I was I always learn to save my money so that I can have something to rely on when if I'm in trouble. And that time came. There were, as I mentioned, 3 great recessions in Canada. 2009, pretty much the worst some of the worst in the world that we have seen. 2016 and 2020, because of the oil price crash and also the pandemic. What happened was, in 2016, I made a really big move in my life. Right after I left my job, I decided to start my app business by working with 3 other IT folks, and then together we created an app, and that whole business venture lasted for 1.5 years. I learned my biggest mistakes from that experience because we didn't know, and all we knew was just about the technological part of the business, but we didn't learn anything about cash flow because we didn't have enough cash flow. We didn't get enough support. We couldn't even get our words out. We were always that invisible man that people didn't even know that we existed. Because of that, our business failed and we lost lots of money. And pretty much most of my savings that I had when I was working in Canada, I lost a lot of money. But because of that, entrepreneurship is a path that once you started, you would never quit. I believe that if I'm willing to work hard and use my own hands, that I would have a chance to change my destiny. So growing up in a really poor background and having my parents to got me to Canada, that was one big transformation in my life. And I always believe that if I don't quit, if I'm willing to work hard, even if my hands were all roughened up, or even if I have more wrinkles on my face, I will need to keep going, because this is just who I am. Who if I quit, I wouldn't be myself anymore. That was why I worked another year in Canada just to save up enough money for the flight tickets and also a little bit of capital to start the eventually successful e-commerce venture that I would have in Latin America. Now, I had lots of chances to talk to both the buyers and the sellers in Latin America, in many different South American countries, and lots of them, they face the same problems. For the buyers, they complain that they always have whatever they bought, it always either is shipped from the United States and they had to pay lots of taxes, and they couldn't, either by the time it never got delivered to them, or by the time it got to them, either it was broken or it was always late, or sometimes they even had to get something shipped directly from China, and it would take even times 4 or 5 months to get there. And I believe that they deserve to be treated better. And that was why what I represent for my company, the kind of idea is to help the buyers to get the high quality products that they deserve in a very short time period. And as for the sellers, and there were folks who already had business experience, but they didn't know how to sell online. They never had any concepts of selling things online. On top of that, there were lots of people who basically became unemployed as a result of the unstable economic situation in South America. So what happened was, under the guidance of my company, we taught them how to start their own business venture by selling the products online. and how to help them to build their brands. And because of that, lots of them now, the situation has become better as they started the business. So what happened was, we just believe that what we represent, and we hope to communicate to the people in the world, is that we have the responsibility to help influence people around, to help them to raise the quality, the living standard, and also if they believe that they can use their own hands to build the destiny, just like how I did it, my company did it. I raised from a really poor background. For someone who could do it, we believe you can also do it and can even be better than myself. If I see that you're better than myself, I will be even happier. If that entrepreneurship is a choice. Now, obviously, it's not for everyone, because it does require lots of mental capability to handle the stress. And it's just better for some people to stay as employees. Like even my parents, actually, they were really, I'm the only one in my family who really started a business. My parents, they have worked for people their whole lives, and they were really against me when I started my business ventures. And when I failed my washroom app in Canada, they always kept telling me to stop and just to go back for a job. And I just want to let you know that on your path to entrepreneurship, when you start your startup or business, you are going to face lots of setbacks and mental mind blocks. There will be very huge resistance against what you're doing from people around you, whether people who know you or your loved ones. That is why we hope to communicate to you, to let you know that if you choose to start this path, you have the choice. And we hope that you can use these videos that you're watching from me to at least help you to make your path a lot easier to walk on. Now, today, let's talk about my background. Most important thing is, you don't need to create some other stories. You are already an amazing story yourself. Just use whatever that's already happening to yourself and tell people, don't be shy away from who you are. Even if there are sad things about your life, don't just tell. Represent is something that can help people to feel resonated with your story. And last but not least, if your product or your service can truly help people to live a better life, don't be afraid to speak up. Find the best way for people around you to know so that they can benefit from you. It is your responsibility. Not least, you are a human being. We all are human beings. That means we are not perfect. It's almost a guarantee. And because of that, show who you are. Show to the others around you that regardless of how imperfect you are, you wouldn't stop. You would do the utmost to make sure your business can bring people a much better life. And this is your responsibility. Tell them that if someone, say, using my own story, someone like myself, raising from a really poor background, can eventually get to become successful. Others can just repeat the same success as well, or even better than me. And some people ask, is it really important for you to speak up? Yes, of course. Yes, you need to speak up, because any leaders of a company, you have a moral responsibility that you are there to make the world better, besides making the money for your business to survive. And that is why you have that moral responsibility to tell people how they can benefit from you. You have the power to make the world better. And this is exactly why you cannot be shy away. And in fact, as you're building your brand, you need to use the best channels for people to know you. Because if you are so great, it's so sad that people don't even know who you are. It is your responsibility. Start today. Let's build a great brand together using the focus and your energy.